The Washington Place Fire by Rosey Safran. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Editor's Note: This article was obtained by a representative of The Independent, who interviewed Miss Safran shortly after the disastrous fire in Washington Place, New York City, March 25th, 1911. An investigation by the grand jury has followed, and last week Isaac Harris and Max Blanc, owners of the Triangle Waste Company, were indicted for manslaughter in the first and second degrees, the maximum penalties being 20 and 10 years imprisonment respectively. The partners are now under $25,000 bail. Editor. I, with a number of other girls, was in the dressing room of the 8th floor of the Ash Building in Washington Place at 4:40 o'clock on the afternoon of Saturday, March 25th, when I heard somebody cry, "Fire!" I left everything and ran for the door on the Washington Place side. The door was locked, and immediately there was a great jam of girls before it. The fire was on the other side, driving us away from the only door that the bosses had left open for us to use in going in or out. They had the doors locked all the time for fear that some of the girls might steal something. At the one open door there was always a watchman who could see if anyone carried out a bundle, or if there was a suspicious lump in anyone's clothing. The fire had started on our floor, and quick as I had been in getting to the Washington Place door, the flames were already blazing fiercely and spreading fast. If we couldn't get out, we would all be roasted alive. The locked door that blocked us was half of wood. The upper half was thick glass. Some girls were screaming. Some were beating the door with their fists. Some were trying to tear it open. There were 700 of us girls employed by the Triangle Waste Company, which had 3 floors, the 8th, 9th, and 10th, in the Ash Building. On our floor alone there were 230. Most of us were crazy with fear, and there was great confusion. Someone broke out the glass part of the door with something hard and heavy, I suppose the head of a machine, and I climbed out, or was pulled, through the broken glass and ran downstairs to the 6th floor, where someone took me down to the street. I got out to the street and watched the upper floors burning, and the girls hanging by their hands and then dropping as the fire reached up to them. There they were dead on the sidewalk. It was an awful, awful sight, especially to me who had so many friends among the girls and young men who were being roasted alive or dashed to death. I can't describe how I felt as I stood there watching. I could see the figures, but not the faces. The police kept us all too far back. We hoped that the fire nets would save some, but they were no good for persons falling so far. One girl broke through the thick glass in the sidewalk and fell down into a cellar. That shows with what force they came down from the 9th floor. One girl jumped from the 9th floor, and her clothing caught on a hook that stuck out from a wall on the 8th. The fire burned through her clothing, and she fell to the sidewalk and was killed. Another girl fell from the 8th to the 6th floor, when a hook supporting a sign caught her clothes and held her. She smashed the window of the 6th floor with her fist and got in the shop, and went down to the street, saving herself. One of my friends, Annie Rosen, was an examiner on the 9th floor. She was near a window when the cry of fire was raised. She tried to open the window to get out. It stuck, but she got it open and climbed on a little fire escape. The fire was coming up from the 8th floor, and in getting from the 9th to the 8th, her hat and her hair were burned. She doesn't know how she got to the 8th. Maybe she fell. She was going to jump to the ground, but the people who were watching her from the street shouted not to do it, and somehow she got through the flames. She fell from the 8th to the 6th floor on the fire escape, and then she was carried down to the street and taken to Bellevue Hospital, where there were many of her companions. She is out now, but pale as a ghost. She does not think that she will ever be strong again. She has lost her nerve and is afraid all the time. I was on the street with the other girls watching. We were screaming for about 20 minutes, and then someone took me home. I don't know who it was. Afterward, I went to the morgue and saw my friends there. Ida Jacobowski, Rosey Sorkin, Benny Sklauer, Jacob Klein, Sam Lehrer, and others. It was on the 9th floor that there was the great loss of life. Altogether 145 were killed, and of these 120 belonged on the 9th floor. When firemen broke open the door on the Washington Place side, they found 50 bodies piled up there. I, who worked on the 8th floor, was unhurt except for the shock, and will go to work again at the same business as soon as I can get a job in a fireproof factory. I was in the great shirtwaist strike that lasted 13 weeks. I was one of the pickets, and was arrested and fined several times. The union paid my fines. Our bosses won, and we went back to the Triangle Waste Company as an open shop, having nothing to do with the union. But we strikers who were taken back stayed in the union, for it is our friend. If the union had had its way, we would have been safe in spite of the fire, for two of the union's demands were adequate fire escapes on factory buildings, and open doors giving free access from factories to the street. The bosses defeated us, and we didn't get the open doors or large fire escapes, and so our friends are dead, and relatives are tearing their hair. In persuading us to go back to work after the strike, the bosses showed us how easy it was to make good wages on the scale they offered. The waste styles then were simple with little trimming, so we did make good wages at first. Then the styles changed to more complicated designing and more trimming with the scale the same. We couldn't make so many of the shirtwaists, and so we didn't earn so much money. Our hours were from 7:30 in the morning till 6 in the evening, but we could work overtime if we liked, and also could work on Sundays, making 7 days' work a week. There was no extra pay for this overtime work. The bosses wanted us to do it when there was a rush of business, but they would not pay any higher rate. Generally, overtime is paid for at a higher rate. I averaged about $14 a week. I worked overtime at that. Sometimes I made $18 a week. That is the most earned by the smartest girl, and that means working from 7:30 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, and Sundays too. I learned to operate a machine in Ślebowice, Galicia, Austria, where I was born. Ślebowice is a little country village. I came to this country 3 years ago, and for the last 2.5 years, till the date of the fire, I worked for the Triangle Waste Company. The wages were not so bad, though many of the girls only made $6 and $8 a week. But they should have had some regard for our lives. End of The Washington Place Fire by Rosey Safran.